What's up everyone, it's the Autistic Scyther here, and with Mario Kart World and the Nintendo Switch 2 being released at this moment, honestly it's fair to say Mario Kart is basically still in full swing. That being said, I do not have a Nintendo Switch 2 or Mario Kart World as of yet, but in all fairness, it really says a lot. And with Mario Kart World out and making it 9 entries, yeah, it's fair to say everyone has their own favorite Mario Kart track. Or their own favorite Mario Kart tracks. Including myself. So, kind of makes sense that I do a top 10 favorite Mario Kart tracks of my own. Which, considering how I decided to this was chosen over 3 others, really does say a lot. That being said, the rule here, these tracks will have to come from Super Mario Kart, Mario Kart 64, Mario Kart Super Circuit, Mario Kart Double Dash, Mario Kart Wii, Mario Kart DS, Mario Kart 7, and Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe. So no Mario Kart Tour because I am not touching that with a 10-foot pole, or Mario Kart World since again, I don't have the game. So without further ado, let's get started. Starting off first with number 10, we have Toad's Factory. And considering how many people had Mario Kart Wii and the Nintendo Wii when they first came out, yeah, they kind of know how a lot of Mario tracks from this game are. I never had a chance to experience this except for emulation. And I know how a lot of people hate emulation, but honestly, certain aspects, that's the only way for me to experience certain games. Or certain systems. So, in all fairness, it really does say a lot. That being said, Toad's Factory, considering how this is a starting one, is kind of interesting. Not only is this a mechanical sort of stage, being a full-on mechanized factory, which is a surprise that someone like Toad could basically have just representing him, and this is a guy who basically thinks of paint as icky goop. It really does say a lot once you realize the conveyor belt mechanics that are in Toad's Factory, basically giving you a speed boost or slowing you down if you go down the conveyor belt going the opposite direction. As well as other factory accoutrements and hydraulic presses that make the series kinda interesting. Almost like it's... And considering how Mario Kart Wii has a lot of serious ones, the fact that this starts off this entire list of my favorites really does say a lot. Almost like you're going into the inner workings of the Mushroom Kingdom. Very fair to say. Moving on next at number 9, we have Yoshi's Valley from Mario Kart 64. And honestly, considering Mario Kart 64, there aren't that many that are my favorites. But when it comes down to it, Yoshi's Valley is kind of an interesting track. First off, in this track and the previous track, when you start the battle, you don't know what place you're at, because all of them are just somewhat of a mystery, to the point where you don't know where it is until the end. Addition to that, Yoshi's Valley is just a maze of different... It's just like a maze of different pathways, which adds to the sort of mystery because you don't know who's in front of you or who's behind you. In fact, every pathway you could take is different. And honestly, this made for a much more fun and hectic track at the same time. I wish they had brought this one back in later entries, or at least when they remade it for Mario Kart 8 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. But again, beggars can't be choosers. Either way, being able to revisit this on the Nintendo Switch Online service for the Nintendo 64 emulator kind of allowed me to revisit the chaos of this game. And this is not the only chaotic track on this list that ended up getting put on this list. Not by a long shot. Really does say a lot. Moving on next at number 8, we have Piranha Plant Slide. Now, for most people who have played through Super Mario Bros. Or even Super Mario Bros. 3 or Super Mario Land, has anyone ever remembered when they went down one of those pipes into the underground sections of that game, of the games? Honestly, I remember, and I'm a guy who started in playing through 2D Mario titles with Super Mario Land back when I was around 7 or 8. Yeah, a long time. That being said, honestly, this one's kind of... So that being said, this track was kind of a return to form. Almost like a nostalgic trip from when I played through Super Mario Land, and especially Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Bros. 3. Or, for most people who have played through Super Mario Bros. As basically, not only are you racing down a pipe, you're basically ending up in an underground sewer area filled with piranha plants and Goombas. And honestly, this is kind of a nostalgic trip down memory lane. And honestly, the fact that Piranha Plant got an entire track to themselves is really fun to say the least. That being said, if they do end up bringing it back in Mario Kart World, please, let's hope fingers crossed they bring back the Pacoon from Super Mario Land. I mean, heck, they brought back the Toko Toko and the Batadon from Super Mario Land. Why not the Pacoon from Super Mario Land? Just saying. Moving on next at number 7, we have Mount Wario. This, ironically enough, is the first track from Mario Kart 8 and 8 Deluxe that are on this list. And honestly, when I first saw this, I was like, how does he afford these things? And keep in mind, Wario is a guy who's obsessed with money, so it kind of bowled me over he was able to afford an entire mountain. That being said, this is one of the best tracks I've ever played through, and it's just a straightforward track down a mountain. And you really don't see a lot of these. I mean, we have seen most of these, but this one is being just straightforward really says a lot. I mean, the first one is, of course, the first thing to start it off, you're basically just driving down a plane. You're just starting off by driving off of a plane and gliding down to the top of a mountain and more or less driving down it. Passing through so many different locales, including driving through a cave, through a hydroelectric dam that Wario basically put together inexplicably, and even going through an old growth forest, and ending off with a skiing track, like a full-on slalom track. And this isn't the only one where something having to do with extreme sports played in the winter comes into play, as DK Summit has this exact same thing. Namely because it's a snowboard track. And considering Mario Kart Wii makes sense since you're able to trick off different ramps and slopes. So yeah, kind of makes sense. But in this case, it somehow seems like a full-on community that Wario bought and put together in one, which is kind of shocking to say the least. But hey, what can you expect when your owner is a guy who, well, loves money? Moving on next at number 6, we have Music Park. As a guy that loves music, yeah, honestly, I'm surprised there has never been a track in Mario Kart that basically has something to do with music. Oh boy, was I wrong when I first played Mario Kart 7 when I borrowed it from a library. Case in point, this track is amazing. I mean, as it's a track that is largely made of nothing but musical instruments and music accoutrements, from music notes that basically cause your racer to bounce whenever they land on the ground, to writing over piano keys and xylophone keys, to basically writing on timpani drums, as well as saying things like trumpets, tubas, French horns, clarinets, flutes, all over the place. It's like a full-on musical wonderland. And granted, for most of what I know about, I was a Nintendo kid growing up, so I never experienced that many PlayStation titles, let alone Rayman and its Bandland. So I've never experienced how it could be, or how crazy it is. I have to find copies of both Rayman and Rayman 2 and see for myself. But that being said, I even love the theme of Music Park, as it's ironic, as its theme is so whimsical and fun that just makes me want to dance every time I play this track. Like do 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 do. Yeah, it's just that fun. Also, I gotta say a shout out to Electrodrome, because I never thought an electronica rave would make for a solid Mario Kart track. And honestly, Mario Kart World needs more based on specific music aspects. Like, I don't know, give us a Grand Ole Opry style track that basically focuses on country music, like guitars and fiddles, picking and grinning, country and western, that sort of thing. Oh my god. This just proves that, honestly, they know what they're doing with music tracks. Right. This video will continue this video in part 2.